Hey, what's up, Party Pickle? What's up, Party Pickles? I'm Pickle Rick. Welcome to a gray, dreary day in Los Angeles where we're going to talk about the grayest, dreariest franchise in film, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. They have a new trailer that dropped. We'll muggle through that. Then we're also talking Sonic 2. And Cowboy Bebop got Bopped off of our airwaves. And maybe some fan questions. Oh, and Halo. Yes. You get to watch me play Halo Infinite live, but I guess no, that's not it. We're going to talk about the trailer. That's pretty fun. That's also entertaining.
I thought that you were going to sing Beyonce's Halo, and I got really excited.
I could do both. So stick around. We'll get to all of it. But hot off the presses, we got another trip to the world of Fantastic Beasts, and sort of Where to Find Them. You know, we got a few crabs, but other than that, 5 grumpy people waving wands at each other. Sorry, I'm tipping my hand as to how I felt about this trailer before I say my piece as someone who's fallen off the train to Hogwarts. What did you guys think of Fantastic Beasts 3?
I did think it was very funny that Warner Brothers was like, from Warner Brothers, and like not from the mind of J.K. Rowling. It was like, no, from Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they came up with it. Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, right?
If only. They haven't been canceled, right?
Well,
let's set, if we can, although look, it's colored everything about this franchise, but if we can set the JK of it aside,
because I think makes it difficult too.
Well, but I'm just saying, even if she was a saintly person these days, like I would still, this trailer would still not do it for me. But maybe I'm on an island here. What do you guys think?
No. Even if she was the quietest mouse who never talked for 10 years and
JD Salinger,
book. I wanted Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I wasn't.
There's some crabs. They look like crabs. You've seen crabs before, right? What if one of them was big?
Fantastic Beasts and How to Eat Them. This trailer, look, if the secret of Dumbledore, nope, not going to make that joke. I just don't. I don't care. And that's a real bummer, but I do think that we have, as someone who has very publicly done a TTRPG, which is a riff on this world where we make fun of it. I have to say, unless you're giving me something new, we've done it. You've wrung everything that I want out of this franchise. And I don't want grim and gray. Like, this franchise is bright.
Well, see, look at that right there. This was sadly to me, but the best part is going back to Hogwarts and having it be children and Jacob, who is the most childlike of the people. But like, it's crazy that this franchise that's all about magic is missing its sense of magic and wonder and like, wow, this is amazing what we're getting to do here. It's just like a plodding prequel to, I guess, World War II, but with wands, which is just a weird
Wand
place
World
to
2.
take it. Eric, what do you think? I know you're not a huge Potterhead, though, right? Even
I am. I'm massive Potter. I mean, where I have a tattoo.
Hey, look at
oh crap! I didn't know that. Show that off.
I have a increasingly J.K. Rowling, shut up. Tattoo.
I get it. It's like everyone who named their kid Daenerys.
Right. No, I love Potter. And again, I did enjoy the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It wasn't like a home run to me. I enjoyed it. But then that second one was such a mess that this trailer needed to be more than because it wasn't like terrible looking to me, but it also wasn't amazing looking. And the only thing I took away from it is like, okay, I think hopefully they heard the one thing about the second one that, there was a lot of problems with the second one, but one was such a jumble. It was so much like world building at the expense of having a good story. And this seems like it's probably a little more focused. But yeah, it certainly wasn't like, wow, they're amazing me. And I do agree with you as someone, again, who thought David Yates's direction was very good for those final 4 Potter movies, which were getting darker in the story and the visual palette matched. But now let's get brighter. Let's get different. It just felt like, okay, they're doing another one of these, but there's nothing special about this trailer. And because it's such a weird time for the franchise, you need something better than this to really get people's attention again.
I mean, you are right in the sense that it did seem like it's more focused. They seem to have settled on what like the core team is going to be, but it just tells you how much they've squandered with the first two movies. That Newt Scamander is really the only one I know or have much affection for. Him and Jacob. Like, I don't think Tina's gone. Like, she wasn't in.
And she's in the movie, but she didn't make the trailer. So.
Like, okay, but when they did that, like assembling the Avengers thing, and they're like, one teacher, one guy from an old family, like I didn't know who half those people were, and I don't know. This is the third movie, and you're like, you're talking to me, without even naming them. Like, I'm supposed to be like, oh man, it's this guy, but I'm just saying, I'm giving the Star-Lord who to like half the core team. It's not a good sign. It might be too little, too late. I do look. Mads Mikkelsen, like you can plug and play him in any villain role. That's he's gonna do the job. But yeah, like I don't know. They're caught between these two worlds because they keep going back to Hogwarts and back to Dumbledore and stuff like that. But they also are doing it in a very adult, grim, dark way. Like, oh, what if we got to see Aberforth when he was hot? Like, okay,
yeah, Aberforth is gonna be trending.
Hot Aberforth. It is. And I think that that's been my problem with the series is that like they're trying to have it both ways where it's like, we want to do the grim dark thing, but we also want to do this thing. And it's like, literally the thing you should do is in the name of your title.
Sure. Yes.
But aside,
comments we have Benza10 says, also, is calling it Fantastic Beasts a misnomer at this point? Are there any magical creatures left? And Prince of Poo-Poo writes, a little spoiler alert, would you agree that Sonic 2 probably has more Fantastic Beasts in it than the Fantastic Beasts movie?
Well, and so that's, I guess, what I was excited for. And then and series take a turn, everything changes, but I kind of wish it was like, Dumbledore, a beginning, or like whatever, like, old Hogwarts, cobbledy bobbledy, or whatever weird English terms they come up with. I wish it was that instead of selling us on like, oh yeah, like you're gonna like go on this adventure. Like I was expecting not like rock in the jungle, but I was definitely expecting like a raucous, fun adventure, and it winds up being this like really dour, mopey. And look, I'm from Seattle, so I know dour and mopey, but like it winds up being this really dour, mopey, like everyone should be wearing hoodies. I don't know why there isn't Radiohead. It just winds up being that. And for me, that continues to be not like what I want, unless that's what you advertise, where you're like, well, this is where we're really going to get into what this was about. It's like, okay. And
I mean, you want the audience to be reacting like Jacob. Like, you shouldn't need a Jacob character to be like the one experiencing the joy and the awe and the magic of it all. Like, that should be coming across on the screen. Otherwise, it just seems like a bunch of people who can't stop, talking about their high school that they went to.
It just feels like these should have been two separate projects, right? It's like Fantastic Beasts should have been a standalone movie, or if it was made today, an HBO Max series. It could be fun and delightful. And then you could do your intense young Dumbledore series. But instead, they're trying to graft them together. And then it ends up feeling like just kind of a weird hodgepodge mess. And
it's a weird mix.
It's very
And
strange.
there's just not enough gay sex. Sorry.
well, don't count it out. Dumbledore's got some secrets, and maybe we'll see them in 3D. Coming up next. But look, this is bumming me out.
But from the bottom to the top, Dumbledore's got some secrets.
If there are people in the comments who dug this and like really like sell us on this series, because I would love to believe again, but I'm afraid it's in the rearview mirror for me. But Sonic is coming up hot. Let's talk Sonic. Sonic 2. I mean, look, this doesn't aspire to be anything more than I think it is, which is like a 90s fast talking mascot saying one-liners while he beats up Jim Carrey in an egg. And that looks like exactly what we're getting. I do miss, I don't think we got as much of the buddy cop vibe, which is what I appreciated from the first one. I think, what's his name? Oh God,
Marsden.
Marsden. I was going to call him Madsen. That's a different different guy. James Marsden and Sonic, they had a good thing going, man. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see more of the two of them. But if they're going full, space alien, sci-fi, Technicolor, dreamscape with it, and bringing in all the different Sonic flavors and variants, it looks like they're gonna nail it. I think that if you like the first one, I think this is literally like more of the same, but literally more of the same. So what do you guys think of Sonic 2?
I would die for Tails. I would die for him.
All he has is a little biplane. I feel so sorry for him.
I know he'll get there. Oh, my sweet baby. I would die for Tails. Other than that, it's just more of the same. But again, like if that's what you like, that's what you're promised. And then at the end, you get Idris Elba like, oh, no, oh.
Oh no, old.
And then, so you get that at the end.
Odds that we get a in-character Knuckles rap on the soundtrack.
Oh, no. I need it.
Very high.
Please.
I'm the net is no, and I'm the best. Oh, the Eggman. No, I'm not.
Emeralds. Eric, what do you think about Sonic 2?
Hey, it looks like it'll deliver more of the same in a good way. I think it'll that first movie, hit a sweet spot. It wasn't like amazing, but it delivered what it needed to deliver.
Yep.
I was mostly weirded out. I realize we have been watching a solid year and a half of things that were created during the pandemic. But Sonic 2 really strikes me because Sonic 1 was one of the very last in-person junkets I did before all this happened. Yeah. So the fact that movie came out, was a hit, they greenlit a sequel, the sequel was written, sequel was produced, all since this began, still kind of threw me I'm like,
and they really labored over that script. It took months and months. The best minds of a generation.
Phone in Sonic 2, man.
Making movies is hard. Writing things is hard. It takes me 2 days to come up with honest trailer notes. I don't want to be an asshole.
It's all very hard. Yes.
Someone on Twitter, I feel bad that I can't give this proper credit because someone on Twitter had a really funny joke about how the villain in this sequel or another one should be the original version of Sonic that was created. The CG Sonic that everyone rejected should be like Sonic's evil self.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
I hope they do that.
That's pretty good. They should do that.
And then pair him up with everyone's like Sonic Chew creations. Like everyone's like, I made my own Sonic.
Yeah, if you Google like Sonic and your name, you always get somebody has made a hedgehog.
Be real careful.
Small rodent, and sometimes they're naked. You never know.
Turn on your thing. Yep.
Yeah, One Quarter Canadian writes, because of the pandemic, Sonic feels like it came out yesterday and 10 million years ago.
Exactly. Yep. That's my point. Yeah. It's like Sonic came out last year, and yet if you told me it came out 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that and Bad Boys for Life for me are in that time vortex where everything collapsed on itself.
Who could forget Trolls 2? Who could forget?
Oh yeah, when we're like, are streaming movies here to stay?
Never forget.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, Jim Carrey, we didn't get, I don't think, his A material in the trailer, but I love that he is going like manic Carrey again. Like they're letting him go like balls to the wall, Ace Ventura energy, which I think is still the best use of a Jim Carrey.
And it makes sense, because obviously he went his serious actor route, and then he circled back around a little bit, did the Dumb and Dumber sequel, he did Kick-Ass 2, but then he had that thing where he didn't want to promote it because he didn't like that it was violent. So this actually, him doing like the bad guy in a kids movie feels good, feels right. Like why not? Kids loved him in the 90s. Why not have him be wacky now? He's very good at doing that. So I think that's
like I feel like there is a moment in every either director or actor's life where they're like, oh, I want something my kids can watch.
Of course. Yeah, he's been in that zone for he went into that zone after like his peak for a while, and that's where we got the Grinch, and that's where we got some of the other Carrey gems. But he's back, baby. Any thoughts on the? We're getting some comments about the CGI in this one. I mean, it looked fine. I don't think it looked like they're not going to have to go back and redraw Sonic or something. Like they got the design right, But
I think that because the question was, has the CGI gotten worse or is it just not finished? Well, might not be finished, but also I think that all that backlash against the first version told them to, and I think this is right for this movie, don't try for photorealistic. There is a little bit of like cartooniness, but because Sonic, the way we picture him in our mind, is pretty cartoony. Yeah. So I don't think they're trying to make him look like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. It's like there is a little bit of like he doesn't need to quite look real. It's kind of like Roger Rabbit, and that's fine, I think, for this particular movie.
Mm-hmm. Eric, that was 100% going to be my point. Like, thank you. Like, it's like it's Sonic. Calm down.
He doesn't look like a real hedgehog to begin with, so stop. Never try. It's wrong.
And you don't want to give him those creepy teeth that first version had.
God, baby teeth. Sonic had racist teeth in the first trailer.
He had racist teeth.
All right, let's talk about Halo, the game I'm currently playing and very much enjoying, but not for its story. And yet here we go. There's this has been cooking for a long time now. Wasn't Spielberg at some point or Peter Jackson going to make this?
Spielberg is, I still believe, a producer. Like, I think this is like Amblin might be a part of this, unless that changed at some point. But I think it was still Spielberg.
Well, I mean, so there's been a ton of top tier talent attached to this, trying to get it right, and they've thrown a lot of money at it, and I think it more or less shows in the trailer. Though it's a lot, it's not a lot of battle stuff. We don't really see any of the aliens, any of the creatures that he'll be shooting, I assume. But yeah, look, my feelings on this are nobody plays Halo for the story. Actually, that's not true. People play Halo for the story, but to me, it's about just kind of vibing. About kind of floating around, kind of bouncing, and then like shooting things with little lasers, and then kind of bouncing over to another place and like kind of enjoying the outdoors with laser guns. That to me is the Halo experience. I never really got into it's like the game is like you run up to an artifact and you press E, and then a cutscene plays, and you skip the cutscene, and then you start shooting again. But do you want to know more about the man behind the mask? I believe his name is Franklin Master Chief. And
Johnny Master Chief?
John Master Chief. Yeah.
John Master Chief. I am being very like zen, where it's like, I don't know until I see the series if it's gonna be good. But I will say, like, I don't know if you can get better than Red versus Blue when they did that. There was a series. So there's a thing, I think it's Machina.
Oh, people know Red versus Blue, right?
Yeah, it's but yeah, there was a thing, they don't really do it so much anymore. Machina, whatever, who cares? Where people, Machinima, thank you, where people would take in-game characters and manipulate them as though they were animation, and they'd do voiceover. And that was really funny. And I liked that, and I liked playing Halo, but man, I don't know. I don't need to see more dudes in space and military gear. Like, oh, it's so hard to be in.
But what if they were in love with their Apple Watch or with their Siri? Does that do it for you? You ever seen a 7-foot-tall space marine try to have sex with an artificial intelligence?
Is this from Airplane?
Yeah. I'm making that confused dog face where I tilt my head because I'm trying to decide if I like it or not.
Yeah. What do you think, Eric? You psyched for this one?
Well, here's the thing. So I've actually never played a single Halo game. I'm a person who lives in this world, though, and I know obviously what Halo Master Chief is. He's pretty a recognizable character. So this trailer, I just took it on surface level. I guess I'll counter Danielle that there was a part of me that was like up for a new dudes in space having a war if it's done well. And I guess that it's funny. If the one thing I was reminding myself, I was just looking up behind the scenes, Spielberg's still EP, but that this show had a lot of change ups of who was show running it. At one point, I was excited because it's the guy, Kyle Killen, who did short-lived great shows, Awake, that Jason Isaac show, and a couple other ones, but he left. There's a lot of weird stuff. But so I watched this trailer, I go, it looks cool. Can this impossibly be a new kind of Battlestar, like fit that sort of niche? I don't know, like, because I don't expect it to be as complex as that, but I hope it's good. It's also interesting to see that, this show was supposed to be for Showtime, and then Viacom CBS is like, nope, Paramount Plus, because they want something bright and shiny for Paramount Plus. So I think it's, it's a good trailer as far as like attention getting and whatnot. It's way too early because it's such a teaser. It's like, it's like you said, Danielle, we've seen it a million times. They're all lined up. They're going to war, space war.
Yeah.
So I hope it's a good space war show.
You are special. I love when trailers address me personally. That's great. And you know, there's no way that video game adaptations are tough because the appeal of video games is kind of emergent in the playing of them. It's not in sitting back and watching the story unfold. It's in like participating in the story, and it's a different medium, folks.
Unless it's Final Fantasy VII.
And then you're basically just reading a book.
Until it's time for me to cross-dress, baby.
I gotta replay that one. It's great.
That whole, I'm sorry, cross-dressing cloud is like, you can't get better.
Let's return to the world, or not leave the world of adaptations. Pour one out, Space Cowboy. Netflix has canceled Cowboy Bebop after one season. Less than 3 weeks. Usually they give the show like 30 days or so before Netflix usually announces that it's got the axe. But this was allegedly expensive, $7-8 million an episode. Obviously they don't release their viewer numbers, but it was not the sensation, I guess, popularity wise or critically that they were hoping for. I think it was a very uneven but enjoyable overall experience to watch. But I feel like it's not for everybody. So I can't say I'm too shocked about this. What do you guys think about the news?
Oh, it's I've said this. I think if it was not a Cowboy Bebop show and just a show that was just like a bunch of space bounty hunters doing space bounty hunter stuff, because Lord knows Cowboy Bebop was not the first, nor was it the last. I think people would have responded to it as like, oh, this is dope. It's so silly.
Yeah.
It's so fun. But I think that this is one of those instances where being tied to a very, very, very recognized and beloved franchise actually hurt it.
Probably. I mean, it felt like it felt like a very expensive prestige sci-fi show and like just a fan project recreation at the same time. I don't know how it managed to like skew close enough, but make enough changes that it just never fully gelled as like a straight adaptation or as its own thing. So yeah, maybe. And John Cho, like, I don't know, like animation looks different. Like people move differently when they're cartoons than when they're older men.
And they're just like they're just different expectations. And there's just like people have been in love with the series for like 20 some odd years. And so to suddenly be like, oh, we're doing this on Netflix and we're doing this version, everyone is going to have their ideal version of what a live action has been like, and they've been doing it for 20 years. You will never satisfy them. No. They will never be happy. It's like if you did a JoJo live action right now, no one would ever be happy.
Let cartoons be cartoons. Sorry, let animation be
animation be animation because no one will ever be happy. If something inspires you, make it live action and make it goofy, and we'll love it.
Yeah, but and I mean, R.I.P. to the woman who wrote Cowboy Bebop, who died this week too soon. But they could have just commissioned more Cowboy Bebop before that happened. That would have been way better received, right?
Yeah.
I think I certainly saw a little bit of this show, but I will say, I guess it does seem worrisome to me. Like I saw some people saying, well, it has to be worrisome to you if you're like a creator these days, that like the way Netflix operates, which has always been mysterious, but now it's just like, because like they're so quick to like make these decisions now, and we don't know the magic of all the things that they analyze, but it basically leaves like no room for like people who like me were like, I'll probably watch it over the holidays. And I saw Jason Lynch, he's a writer for Adweek. He posted that we're kind of seeing a weird role reversal now, where the networks, which used to be like, oh, they'll cancel things so quickly. Now they're like, well, we want to run the full first season over several weeks, and we'll see then all the people who watch it later on streaming. And we want to get all this data before we make our renewal decisions. And Netflix is now the one is like 3 weeks, you're done.
Yeah.
So it's just
I'm sure
strange.
Well, I mean, they spent so much money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll bet that kind of thinking is on a sliding scale with the budget. And like,
for
when
sure,
you dump a ton of money into something and it's not a hit, you're like, we're not doing this again.
Because the other one they did this with a few months ago was Jupiter's Legacy, where it was a kind of shockingly quick cancellation. which we also, that show was, kind of infamously probably went like over budget and, had a bunch of problems
and no
behind
one
the scenes.
watched it. Yeah.
But
like
yeah,
a
it's
genre thing and no one cared.
Yeah, it's weird though, because just Netflix doesn't allow for like things to have a slow build, it seems. It's like, it's very much like, just that's they have a model, it works for them, clearly they're a big success, but it does make things almost this kind of crazy Russian roulette of putting a show out there, and will it quickly catch on and become a sensation, or is it like, nope, it's been 3 weeks, not enough people have watched it, canceled. So just a strange thing that I'm sure people, as they're like shopping their shows, have to kind of keep on, because we all know you get paid a big paycheck up front to make your Netflix show. So yeah, what's
to make
the
any
gamble?
show. Yeah.
To anything streaming, yeah. So yeah, I mean, this could be the end of just the latest cycle of our animes, the next comic books. But give it 5 years and they'll forget, and they'll one question from the chat, Warrior Fella asked, do you think anything will inspire Hollywood to make good anime adaptations, or will they continue doing them just for the hell of it? I don't think there is such a thing as a good anime adaptation, just because it's you're hopping mediums, or it's like something is literally lost in the translation. So unless you're just taking it as a rough starting point and making something more suited to live action, which is going to upset fans of the original, like, I think you're damned either way. So no, I don't think it's really ever going to take off.
It's been the question that video game adaptations have had since the 90s. And recently, we talked about Sonic. We've had a couple of successes where it seemed to be like, just, they can never, and there's a couple through the years, but yeah, it's like the batting average is still very low for video game adaptations. And it seems like anime is another one where there's a lot of hurdles to get past if you can make it a successful one.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to, we've got some great questions rolling in. So I want you to sound off on this, Danielle, because I know your feelings. What do you think about the Mitchells versus the Machines being snubbed from Best Animated Film at the Globes? You said that's like number 2 to Spider-Verse.
Nonsense.
Dang.
I'm sorry, like literally the animation, it's not just the story. Every frame of painting, I know that that's such a cliche. Literally, you can pause, and I know we overuse literally. I do. You can pause.
Figuratively pause.
And no, this is literally. I'm not even. This is a literal thing. You can pause at every screen, and there is something special happening behind it that you will want to read or look at, because that is the way that that's the way that this is made. And some of them are more obvious than others, but it's all, it's a big bummer, and I'm assuming it's because it was Netflix only. But Mitchell versus the Machines was one of my favorite, like, not just animated movies, like movies last year, and it's a real big bummer, and there's kind of no excuse because the animation looks amazing and the style is so different from what you've seen. Please give it a shot. It doesn't look like anything you've seen, and it's really fun, and it's a great story, but it doesn't look like anything you've seen. I promise you.
Well, the Golden Globes are. I have some questions about the Golden Globes.
Yeah. Well, they're there for you to get drunk and party.
But now they're not, like, I don't even know if they're going to do a show, because they're coming off this year where they were always kind of been like, who are these guys? Should we be putting any credibility into this? And then everything super imploded this year for them. So to me, this is just kind of like, I don't put too much into it because it's the Golden Globes, and this year more than ever. And so Mitchells vs. Machines has been winning at a lot of other film film awards as far as best animated things. So don't put it in.
Well, no, the reason it bums me out is because a lot of Academy voters don't pay attention to stuff until it gets to the Globes, and they're like, oh, well, I guess I should pay attention.
Yeah.
So that's why it bums me out, because a lot of them are not watching movies, they're not paying attention, and so they will be guided by what happens at the Globes, even though the Globes is just an excuse to like get really drunk with your friends. So yeah, that's the reason why it bums me out, because I know like how much that influences the rest of what happens in award shows.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's end on a cool note. I like this question. Jeffrey Yelverton asked, which franchise's universe has the coolest magic? Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, or the MCU? Or, tack on your own, like what's your favorite magic system on screen or depiction of how it works? Any of those spring to mind? Like, is definitely the one you would want to toss around?
Well, I guess I'll be a Marvel stan, only to say that it's funny because Doctor Strange is one of my lesser MCU movies, but I love the depiction of magic in it. Like the visuals were so cool and the sort of trippiness, and it was a kaleidoscope of color. We were talking about wanting the Fantastic Beasts movies to have more color. And so I'll say Doctor Strange, just magic's so difficult to depict like on camera, has like a interesting thing because it's magic. So I'll say Doctor Strange because I liked what they did visually with it the most of these things.
I'm going back to animation. Steven Universe, I think, is like a really fun depiction of magic and the way that it works. It's too much to get in here and to describe. But 'cause they have like a huge, very deep lore, and you find out more about it later. But essentially, a bunch of people who are actually gems, who look like people, get to have magic powers, and they meld with each other sometimes, and then they become Amy Mann or Nicki Minaj. I can't explain it in like the 2 minutes we have left, but I think that is one of my favorite depictions of magic.
All right. I'm going to add one to the list. Also, yeah, I was going to say, Lucas said this in the comments. I like The Witcher a lot. I guess that this is magic and alchemy. Like I do like magic that there's like kind of lesser forms where it's just like, yeah, you can learn to make a few hand signs and like that does a little trick. But there's also people who are, they have this source of chaos inside of them, and it's that they can harness it with a lot of training, but otherwise it just comes out when you're stressed. And but I really like the way in game and in the series, like where Geralt needs to basically drug himself before a fight in different and exotic ways, and then it makes his eyes all cool and skin all sallow, and then he can bite a vampire or whatever. I think it's just grounded gets thrown around a lot, but like it just feels really physical and kind of gross. And I think that's a cool implementation. Full Metal Alchemist is getting some love in there. Avatar, the bending verse. Yeah, the Bendiverse.
Yeah, that's probably my pick too. Or one of them for sure.
We consider that magic. That's pretty great.
Look, if we're actually talking about my real favorite magic, it's obviously Last Dragon. So I don't even know why we're doing this.
There you go.
When you got that glow.
When you got the glow. But we could go on because let's save some of these fan questions for later because there's some really good ones. But apparently Kim got to go to the No Way Home junket. Well, got to Skype her way into a No Way Home junket. Eric, what happened there?
Yeah, she talked to a guy named Tom Holland. He's Spider-Man, everyone. And it's funny because it's so difficult to ask about this movie because they can't say anything. So mostly they talked about the future of Spider-Man beyond this. It's funny, he's still being coy about whether he is Spider-Man, which to me just means the contract's not 100% finished. But he had some really interesting things to say about what he'd like to see for Spider-Man going forward. Maybe it's time for him to finally become a mentor. We've seen him be a mentee for a while now. And he talked about some of the villains he'd like to see. And interestingly, he named Kingpin. If you've been following a lot of speculation going on these days, there's certainly a to that. So Kim talked to Spidey here. You should check it out.
Awesome. Well, let's get off your screen and look at Tom Holland. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Can we just stay up here all day? It is so crazy down there.
That's right, folks. Spider-Man is in fact Peter Parker.
Spider-Man might be in trouble with the law in No Way Home, but I'm going to ask you to cast your mind back to Homecoming and the ferry incident, because we asked 2 lawyers to prosecute and defend Spider-Man over his role in that incident, and I wondered what side you would fall on objectively.
It's a tricky one because he is doing the right thing, but in doing the right thing, he's doing the wrong thing. I think sometimes you have to leave this sort of stuff to the authorities. But I guess in the film, the authorities weren't listening to him, so he took it into his own hands to kind of save the day. But I think if I was his lawyer, I could make a pretty good case as to why he was innocent and only trying to help.
For the record, the prosecuting lawyer said he wouldn't take this case because there's no way he'd win.
Really?
Pretty much, yeah. He said the case that he would put forward, but at the end of the day, there's no jury in the land really that would convict Spider-Man.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
If you were to explore more solo outings as Spider-Man, Tom, I wondered what you would want to explore.
The truthful answer is I don't know. There is one idea that I have pitched to the studio, but by telling you that idea, I'd be ruining this movie. So I'm going to have to keep that one to myself. You know, there is a future for Spider-Man. Whether I'm a part of it, I don't know. You know, it's been an incredible journey so far. And if it's time for me to hang up the cape and let the next person take over, I would do that proudly, that, you know, knowing that I've achieved everything I wanted to.
You know, all this is kind of your mess. I know a couple of magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap.
What about villains? Are there any villains from the comic books that you'd like to tackle before you bow out?
I think there's some interesting villains. I think Madam Web could be something that is really interesting, and we could do it in our own way. I'd really love to come up against Wilson Fisk. You know, I also would like to maybe see what happens if my Spider-Man becomes a villain. You know, I think there's some interesting things where you can make a film about an anti-hero. I don't know. I'd also like to make a film about Peter Parker that has nothing to do with Spider-Man. Like, make a £4 million indie movie about Peter Parker. They'd never do that, but I think it could be fun.
I was just trying to be like you.
I wanted you to be better. I'm gonna need the suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
In these films, we've kind of seen slowly Peter mature through them, but he's always been the mentored one. Would you like to see him mentor someone in the future?
I think, you know, that's very much on the cards, and it would be a really interesting thing to see that side of Peter Parker. I like the idea of him being a terrible mentor. I think it could be really funny. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that probably will happen one day.
And what advice would you give when ultimately you do leave the incoming Spider-Man?
There's so much advice I could give, and, you know, I'd like to say that I would be there readily available for that person so that if they need any help, they can call me. But I'm not going to be an overbearing person and say, this is how you should do this. I just would like to be an ally and let them know that if you're ever having a tough time, I've been through what you're going through, so call me and ask me and I'll help you.